Beatles, 1964, and the Beatles are touring America and coming to the Hollywood Bowl. Who opened for them? The Stones, Kinks, Little Richard? No, it's a local East L.A. band, Cannibal The Headhunters. Let's go talk to Robert Zapata about how he's keeping that music alive. He's been the drummer since 1969 and eventually became the leader. Let's go check out Cannibal The Headhunters. So I'm so excited to be here at the Cerrito Center for the Performing Arts with Cannibal The Headhunters. This is incredible. And I ran into Robert Zapata at the Irvine Meadows.
That's right.
And Robert,
Pacific Amphitheater.
Tell me about this group, and we're going to talk to everybody.
Well, this group has been around since 1964. The group actually started with Frankie, Cannibal, Garcia, and 3 background singers. And shortly, that was in early 1964. No group, no band at that point. Right. When Cannibal did shows, whatever group was there is a group that backed them up. And
which is kind of the way it was done back then. Well, yeah. Session musicians, the Wrecking Crew.
When the group was formed, Cannibal's nickname came in the most curious way. As a young man going to school, he got into a little scuffle and he bit a guy's ear, and they nicknamed him Cannibal, and that's where the name kind of stuck from that point on. And so that's the first part of the name. But when they were actually putting the group together, Frankie had got together with Eddie Davis from Rampart Records, went through a whole series of things to finally get in the studio and record Land of a Thousand Dances.
This is a big hit.
In the creation of the group, there was an event that was going on at KRLA radio station. Strangely enough, Rudy Salas from the group Tierra was at this particular event. Him and his brother Steve, they were to perform as the Salas brothers that day. And they were listening to the conversation, and Eddie Davis said to him, well, we have Rudy Salas mentioned you should use Frankie's nickname, Cannibal, for sure. So they all agreed that should be something they should use, and it was Dick Moreland that came up with the rest of it. Well, if it's Cannibal, you should go with the Headhunters, Cannibal The Headhunters.
So introduce the rest of your bandmates here.
Oh, well, the band here today now, the band's gone through a lot of changes. We've had a lot of personnel changes throughout the years, you know. On my far right over here is Carl Carrasco on keyboards, who's been with the group some 34, 35 years now. And he's been a pivotal part of the group. And Dave Goldstein, another keyboard player, another LA great, originally from Rochester, New York, has been with us about 23 years now, right? 23 years. And Charlie here, the minute I saw him do his thing, singing and performing, right away I thought, this guy's very much like Cannibal, somewhat. And even Eddie Serrano.
So you're the reincarnation, Charlie.
Somewhat.
Pretty much.
And not completely, but
yeah.
So tell me why this music's important to you.
well, all my life has been in music. It's one of the things that you grow up with and something you always wanted to do, but you never really realized the fact that you might get to that point. And one thing led to another, and I met these guys, and I've been with them 23 years now, so it's been a great journey for me.
Yeah, and in terms of the history, in terms of Hispanic and Latino culture, East L.A., I mean, what does this mean to you in that regard?
It means everything, everything. From, being who I am to what I am now, and the people that I'm with now. Without them, I couldn't do the job I do.
Yeah,
Well, he also had his own group. He's been a little polite, but he had a group called the Amber Tones back in the 60s, who they were on the same label that the Turtles were on.
Back in the mid-60s. Yeah, we had a couple of songs out that time. So it was fun then, too.
And Dave, in terms of the music, what's your favorite part of it?
Well, as Robert said, I'm the relative new guy to the group, and I've been doing this now for 23 years. But I grew up back in New York State and have been in L.A. now for 30 years. A few years after I got here, I met this gentleman. And I've really come to develop an appreciation for the East L.A. scene and all the various East L.A. bands and the history of this group.
When you think about a Hispanic Latino band opening for the Beatles back in the 60s, I mean, that's a pretty unique situation. What do you think, Carl?
Well, it was one of the best opportunities, I think, for this group to come up with back then in the 60s to get their foothold in front of a large audience, with such as the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and other groups at the time that they were developing their own sound, which is unique for the culture of our of our musicianship growing up.
My understanding, Robert, is Paul McCartney saw a Hullabaloo episode.
Yeah, Paul McCartney first heard the song and loved the song. But in a normal, typical rock and roll band, as they're starting off, learning their craft, creating their music, it takes about a year, 2 years before you actually get to share the stage with maybe one of your favorite rock and roll bands. Well, it didn't happen that way with Cannibal. Within the first 4 or 5 months of the group's conception, Cannibal was on stage before the Beatles tour. He opened up for the Rolling Stones in Birmingham, Alabama at Legion Field on May 7th. So it was, and back then the Rolling Stones were called England's Great Rolling Stones. They dropped England's Great and went with the Rolling Stones. So it was the Rolling Stones, Cannibal and the Headhunters, the Righteous Brothers, the Beach Boys, Marty Robbins, and 2 other people that were performing on that particular show. And then 3 months later, that's when the Beatles tour hit. So it's kind of odd with Frankie. He started for the top, and it's where do you go when you climb the ladder? Where do you go when you climb the ladder? So when he bowed out of the music scene,
Sinatra and Elvis weren't available. So
when Cannibal bowed out of the music scene in '83 due to health issues, and turned the group over to me, it was a heck of a job to keep the group performing in the status of those type of acts. And fortunately, I was able to hook up with a company called 30th Anniversary of Rock and Roll, Mr. Ron Kurtz, the CEO, and we ended up doing a tour called the 30 Years of Rock and Roll for about 9 years, opening up for people like Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, backing up, not only opening the show, but we also backed up Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night, Tiny Tim, Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees, Classics 4.
So tell me what you're up to now, Charlie. What's going on? We're here at the Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts, right? Okay, good. I got it right.
Well, number one, we're waiting for the show to come on so we can give.
Let's get in there.
We want to do the show. We just can't wait. We're all excited about it. But
What's the date?
It's September 24th. Don't forget that date, September 24th. Yeah, we're all excited about the show. We worked real hard for it, and now that it's come up, we want to give the people what they want to get.
And who else is on the bill with you?
It's going to be the Midnighters, and also a group from Oakland, the Bay Area, Malo, which was a group that was started by George Santana, Carlos Santana's brother. So yeah, that group's going to be with us that night. But we're right in the midst of creating a script for the movie about Cannibal and the Headhunters.
I was just going to ask. There's got to be a movie here.
Yeah, it's basically my story and my experience working with Cannibal. And I mean, I was 15 years old when I first started working with him. And, so it's been some 50 odd years now, 55 or so years. It's been pretty much my whole life in this band. So my purpose now, I think, is to keep Frankie's legacy alive, his memory, of course, and to keep this band working in and with the acts that Frankie kind of set from the beginning, which he kind of laid the bar kind of high, you know what I mean? So, and we get the opportunity to perform again with Denny Lane, Joey Mullen from Badfinger, and just a slew of others. So it's been an awesome.
Great. So this is so great. I'm here with Robert, Charlie, David, and Carl, Cannibal and the Headhunters, Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts, September 24th. Here's the information. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Pat.
And that's our look at Cannibal and the Headhunters. What an amazing story. Thanks to Robert Zapata and the Cerritos Center for the Performing Arts.